Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another deep dive.
It's great to be here.
Today, we're jumping into a really fascinating and honestly pretty complex topic, artificial intelligence in healthcare.
Yeah, this is definitely a big one.
We'll be exploring how AI is actually being used right now. This is based on information up to around, say, late April 2025 to help with diagnosis, find new treatments faster, and just generally change how healthcare gets delivered. So our mission for you today is to look past the hype. We want to understand the real potential, what's actually happening on the ground, and some of the really critical things we need to think about as AI becomes, well, more integrated.
Absolutely. It's about separating the signal from the noise.
Exactly. So let's kick things off with the basics. What exactly is AI in healthcare, in practical terms, and why is everyone talking about it so much right now?
Okay, good place to start. So fundamentally, AI in healthcare means using computers, systems, techniques like machine learning, deep learning, natural language processing, computer vision to analyze complex medical data. Think of it like trying to mimic certain human cognitive functions, but with computers.
Okay, mimicking human thinking with data.
Sort of, yeah. But the really crucial point, and this comes up again and again, is that AI is primarily seen as a tool to augment what clinicians can do. It's not about replacement.
Right, not robot doctors taking over.
Exactly. It's more like an incredibly smart assistant. It can process huge amounts of information, spot really subtle patterns maybe a human eye might miss, help reduce certain types of errors, and automate some of the more repetitive tasks.
So freeing up doctors and nurses for other things.
Precisely. Letting them focus on complex decision-making, direct patient interaction, the human side of care.
And why now? What's driving this surge of interest?
Well, it's really a convergence of factors, a bit of a perfect storm, you could say. First, just the sheer amount of health data we generate now is staggering. Electronic health records, medical imaging, genomics, data from wearables. It's an explosion.
Right, data everywhere.
Yeah. Second, the AI algorithms themselves, particularly deep learning, have become much more powerful and sophisticated just in the last decade or so. They're simply better at learning from all that data.
Okay.
And third, we finally have the computational power, the powerful computers and cloud infrastructure needed to actually crunch these massive data sets and run these complex algorithms effectively.
We got it. Data, algorithms, power.
And for a system like Canada's, publicly funded, aiming for universal access, AI offers this really interesting potential to optimize how we use resources, maybe improve diagnostic pathways, and ultimately enhance patient outcomes across the board. Plus, Canada has some really strong AI research hubs like MILA, the Vector Institute, AMI.
Right, we hear a lot about those.
Yeah, and there's government interest too, obviously regulated by bodies like Health Canada and working within our privacy frameworks like PIPEDA. So the ecosystem is kind of primed for it.
That makes sense. So beyond just having the tech ready, what are the big pressures within healthcare itself that are making people turn to AI? What problems is it trying to solve?
Oh, there are several major ones. Information overload is huge. Clinicians are just swamped with data. AI can help synthesize that, pull out the critical findings, reduce that cognitive burden.
Just cutting through the noise.
Exactly. Then there's the constant drive for better diagnostic accuracy and speed. AI's ability to spot subtle patterns, like we said, could mean catching diseases earlier when treatment is often more effective. That's a massive potential benefit.
Earlier detection is key for so many things.
Absolutely. Then you have the bottlenecks in drug development. It's notoriously slow, incredibly expensive. AI offers ways to potentially streamline that, accelerate finding new drug candidates, predict their success.
That's a big one. That process definitely feels like it needs a shakeup.
It really does. Another driver is the growing need for personalization. We know patients respond differently to treatments. AI can help analyze an individual's unique profile, their genetics, their lifestyle, to tailor interventions more effectively, moving beyond one-size-fits-all.
Personalized medicine, right?
Precisely. And of course, there's always pressure on healthcare system efficiency. Optimizing hospital operations, scheduling, managing resources. Better AI tools are being developed for all of that. Especially important in publicly funded systems trying to maximize value. And finally, improving access. Think about using AI-powered tools in telemedicine to extend diagnostic capabilities to remote or underserved areas. It could really bridge some gaps.
Okay, quite a few compelling reasons there. Let's dig into some specifics. You mentioned medical imaging analysis. That seems like a really mature area for AI already. How exactly is it being used with things like X-rays, CT scans, MRIs?
Yes, imaging is definitely one of the most advanced areas. This is where computer vision and deep learning, specifically those convolutional neural networks or CNNs, really shine.
CNNs, okay.
Think of them as algorithms specifically designed to learn visual patterns from pixels. They're being trained on millions of medical images, radiology scans like X-rays, CT, MRI, but also digital pathology slides, retinal scans in ophthalmology, even dermatology photos.
Wow, across the board. So what can they actually do with those images?
Well, quite a lot already. We see AI used to detect tiny lung nodules that might be cancerous, identify signs of diabetic retinopathy in eye scans, sometimes even before a person notices symptoms. They can help classify skin lesions, assess the likelihood of malignancy. In pathology, they can quantify cells, help grade cancers. They can even spot subtle fractures on X-rays that might be easily missed by the human eye, especially in a busy emergency room.
So it's like having a super vigilant assistant looking over the radiologist's shoulder, or maybe pre-screening?
Kind of, yeah. It plays different roles. Sometimes it's for screening, flagging potential issues for review. Other times it helps prioritize urgent cases, bumping them up the queue for the human expert. And it can provide quantitative measurements too, like the exact size of a tumor or tracking changes over time. Very useful data points.
And is this actually being used in hospitals now?
It's starting to be. We're seeing growing numbers of AI tools getting regulatory approval from bodies like the FDA in the US and Health Canada here. But widespread clinical integration is still a work in progress. It takes time. You need more large-scale validation studies, seamless integration into hospital IT systems and workflows, and crucially, building trust and confidence among clinicians. That last part is key.
Right, the human factor. Okay, let's switch gears to drug discovery. You said AI could provide a shakeup there. How is it changing that incredibly complex, long process?
Yeah, this is another area with enormous potential. AI, mainly machine learning and deep learning, is being applied to analyze vast data sets, biological data, chemical structures, clinical trial results.
To do what exactly?
Well, several things. Identifying novel drug targets, basically. Finding new ways a drug could potentially attack a disease at the molecular level. Predicting the efficacy and toxicity of potential drug candidates much earlier in the pipeline, maybe saving millions in failed experiments.
So predicting success or failure earlier.
Exactly. And even designing entirely new molecules from scratch using something called generative models. AI can propose chemical structures likely to have desired properties. It's also being used to optimize clinical trial design, finding the right patient populations, predicting recruitment rates, and then analyzing the complex data that comes out of those trials more effectively. And there's drug repurposing, too.
Finding new uses for old drugs.
Precisely. AI can scan through data on existing drugs and suggest potential new therapeutic uses, which is a much faster path to approval sometimes.
That sounds incredibly powerful. Any standout examples?
I think the one that really captured attention is DeepMind's AlphaFold.
Oh, yeah, I remember hearing about that protein folding.
Exactly. Predicting the 3D structure of proteins based on their amino acid sequence. This was a massive biological challenge, and AlphaFold made incredible progress. Understanding protein structure is fundamental for understanding disease mechanisms and designing drugs that target those proteins. It's a real landmark achievement.
So big pharma is jumping on this.
Oh, absolutely. There's heavy investment across the industry. AI is becoming increasingly integrated into R&D pipelines. It's moving beyond just hype now.
Okay, interesting. Now, another area you highlighted was personalized medicine, making treatments more tailored. How does AI enable that move away from one size fits all?
Right. So personalized medicine is all about tailoring treatments to the individual, considering their unique genetic makeup, their environment, their lifestyle, not just treating based on broad disease categories. AI is critical here because it can synthesize all these different data types for a single patient.
Bringing all the pieces together.
Exactly. So concrete examples. In cancer, AI might analyze genomic data from a tumor alongside the patient's clinical history to predict which specific immunotherapy drug is most likely to be effective for that patient's cancer.
Rather than just trying one and seeing if it works.
Precisely. Or recommending the optimal dosage for certain drugs, like the blood thinner warfarin. Getting the dose right for warfarin is tricky and depends on genetics. AI models can help predict the best starting dose. Another example is in radiation therapy for cancer. AI can help design highly precise radiation plans that conform tightly to the tumor shape, maximizing the dose to the cancer while minimizing damage to nearby healthy tissues.
That sounds much safer.
It aims to be. And even before treatment, AI can analyze risk factors, genetic predispositions, lifestyle data to predict an individual's risk of developing certain diseases, allowing for targeted preventative strategies, maybe recommending earlier screening or specific lifestyle changes for high-risk individuals.
So intervening earlier based on personal risk.
But again, while the potential is huge, this is still an intense area of research and development. It requires integrating very diverse data sources reliably and very robust validation to prove these personalized approaches are truly better and safe.
Lots of work still to do there. So we've covered imaging, drug discovery, personalized medicine. Are there other significant areas where AI is making inroads in healthcare?
Oh yes, definitely. Clinical decision support, or CDS, is becoming more common. These are often tools built into electronic health record systems.
Like little helpers for the doctor?
Kind of. They might provide alerts for potential drug interactions based on a patient's medication list, suggest possible diagnoses based on symptoms entered, or even recommend treatments based on the latest clinical guidelines and evidence, helping clinicians stay up to date.
That seems very practical.
It is. Then there's natural language processing, NLP, which we touched on. It's huge for unlocking the value in unstructured clinical notes the text doctors write. NLP can extract structured information like diagnoses, medications, symptoms, which is invaluable for research, quality improvement, public health surveillance.
Making sense of all those written notes.
Exactly. And NLP also powers analysis of medical literature, helping researchers keep up with the flood of new publications. We're also seeing AI enhancing robotic surgery.
Robots in the OR.
Yeah, but AI isn't doing the surgery itself yet, mostly. It's more about improving the surgeon's capabilities, enhancing visualization, providing greater precision and stability for minimally invasive procedures, making the tools smarter.
Got it. Assisting the surgeon.
Right. And then you have things like virtual health assistants and chatbots. These are becoming more sophisticated. They can help with initial symptom checking, medication reminders, booking appointments, sometimes even providing basic mental health support through things like cognitive behavioral therapy chatbots, or just answering common health questions.
Patient-facing tools.
Exactly. And behind the scenes, AI is being used in healthcare operations and management, optimizing bed allocation in hospitals, predicting patient flow to reduce waiting times, improving staff scheduling, automating parts of the billing and coding process, making the system run smoother.
Efficiency gains.
Yes. And finally, remote monitoring and predictive analytics. Using data from wearable sensors, think smartwatches, continuous glucose monitors to track patients' conditions remotely, and, crucially, use AI to analyze that data stream to predict potential adverse events before they happen, like predicting a fall risk in an elderly person or an impending hypoglycemic episode in someone with diabetes.
Wow, that's quite a list. AI seems to be touching almost everything. Could you maybe break down the core types of AI technology that make all this possible? You mentioned a few.
Sure. It's really a toolbox of different AI techniques. Foundational is machine learning, ML. This is where systems learn from data to make predictions or decisions. Think predictive models for disease risk or treatment response. Algorithms like logistic regression support vector machines, random forests. These are ML workhorses.
Okay, standard ML.
Then there's deep learning, DL, which is a subset of ML using these deep neural networks with many layers. It's particularly good with unstructured data.
Right, like images and text.
Exactly. So within DL, we talked about convolutional neural networks, CNNs, the stars for medical image analysis. For sequential data like time series in EHRs, genomic sequences, or text analyzed via NLP, we often use recurrent neural networks, RNNs, LSTMs, or the more recent transformer models.
Transformers, like in language models?
Yes, those have been very impactful in NLP, including clinical text. There are also generative models, things like JANs or autoencoders. They're used for tasks like designing new drug molecules, creating synthetic medical images for training data, or detecting anomalies.
Generating new things.
Right. Then more broadly, we have computer vision, CV, which is a whole field dedicated to enabling computers to see and interpret images, absolutely essential for medical imaging AI. And natural language processing, NLP, is the field focused on enabling computers to understand and process human language, crucial for clinical text and chatbots. And one more dimension is reinforcement learning, RL. This is where AI agents learn by trial and error, receiving rewards for penalties. It's being explored for things like optimizing adaptive treatment strategies that change based on patient response, or for controlling robotic systems in surgery.
So quite a diverse tech stack driving all this. Looking ahead then, with all these applications and technologies maturing, what's the really big picture? What could healthcare look like, say, 10, 20 years down the line if this potential is realized?
Well, the vision is pretty transformative, isn't it? We could see vastly improved diagnostics, faster, more accurate, and potentially much more accessible. Think population-level screening becoming routine for many conditions, catching diseases incredibly early. Predictive models might identify high-risk individuals years before symptoms appear.
Proactive diagnosis.
Exactly. Then, truly personalized treatment could become the norm. Therapies tailored not just to your general condition, but your specific genetic makeup, your microbiome, your lifestyle, maybe even real-time data from sensors you're wearing. Much more precise and effective.
Tailored down to the individual.
We could also see dramatically accelerated biomedical innovation. If AI can speed up drug discovery and development as much as hoped, new therapies could reach patients much, much faster. That's a huge deal.
Getting treatments out quicker, yeah.
Then enhanced efficiency and accessibility. Streamlined hospital workflows, reduced administrative burden for clinicians freeing up their time, optimized use of resources, and improved access through more sophisticated telemedicine and remote diagnostics.
Making the system work better for everyone.
Hopefully. There's also the potential for a fundamental shift towards proactive and preventative health. Moving away from just treating sickness towards using AI to continuously monitor health, identify risks early, and enable personalized preventative actions to keep people healthy in the first place.
Focusing on wellness.
Yes. And finally, greater patient empowerment. Giving individuals AI-powered tools to better understand their health conditions, manage them proactively, track their progress, and participate more actively in decisions about their care.
That paints a really compelling picture, an exciting future, potentially.
It really is. The potential is immense.
But there's always a but, isn't there? This all sounds amazing, but deploying AI in such a sensitive field like healthcare must come with some significant challenges and ethical considerations, right?
Oh, absolutely. Huge ones. We definitely need to acknowledge the hurdles. It's not a simple plug-and-play situation.
So what are the big ones we need to grapple with? Data privacy must be near the top of the list.
Paramount.
Yeah.
Absolutely number one. We're dealing with some of the most sensitive personal information imaginable. Protecting patient confidentiality is non-negotiable. AI systems need to comply rigorously with privacy regulations like Canada's Provincial Health Information Acts, FIAPA in Ontario, for example, and the federal PIPEDA. Robust data governance, security measures, techniques like federated learning where data stays local, these are crucial.
Right, keeping data safe and private. What about bias? We hear a lot about AI bias.
A massive concern. If AI models are trained on historical data that reflects existing health disparities, biases in access, treatment, or even how data was recorded for different demographic groups, the AI can inadvertently learn and even amplify those biases.
So it could actually make health inequities worse.
That's the risk. We could end up with AI tools that work better for some groups than others, creating a sort of two-tiered system driven by algorithms. Ensuring fairness and equitable performance across different demographics, race, gender, socioeconomic status is absolutely critical. Requires careful dataset curation, bias detection, and mitigation techniques during development and ongoing monitoring after deployment.
A really tough challenge. How about regulating these things? How do bodies like Health Canada or the FDA keep up?
That's another major hurdle. Traditional medical device regulation wasn't really designed for software that can learn and change over time, which some AI models do. Regulators need robust frameworks to evaluate the safety, efficacy, and reliability of these complex AI systems. How do you validate them properly? How do you manage updates or changes to the algorithm once it's in use? They're actively working on this, but it's evolving territory.
Keeping pace with the technology. And what about understanding how the AI makes its decisions? The black box problem.
Yes, explainability, or the lack thereof. Many powerful AI models, especially in deep learning, are incredibly complex, effectively black boxes. They give you an output, a prediction, but it can be very difficult to understand precisely why they reached that conclusion.
Which must be hard for doctors to trust, right?
Exactly. Clinicians need to understand the reasoning behind an AI recommendation to feel confident using it, especially for high-stakes decisions. Patients also deserve transparency. So, developing explainable AI, XAI techniques that can provide insights into the model's reasoning is vital for building trust. But it's technically very challenging, especially without sacrificing performance.
Trust and transparency are key. Then there's the question of who's responsible if something goes wrong. Accountability.
A very thorny legal and ethical issue. If an AI system contributes to a misdiagnosis or a negative patient outcome, who is liable? The developer who created the algorithm, the clinician who acted on its suggestion, the hospital that deployed it, maybe even the AI itself in some future sense. Establishing clear lines of accountability is complex and hasn't really been fully worked out yet.
Lots of unanswered questions there. What about just the practical side of things, getting these tools into hospitals?
Clinical workflow integration. This is a huge practical barrier. Hospitals have complex IT systems, clinicians have established ways of working, often under intense time pressure. AI tools need to fit seamlessly into these workflows without adding extra burdens, without disrupting care. Poor integration means even the best AI won't get used effectively. User-centered design is critical here.
Making it easy to use in a busy environment.
Precisely. And related to that is the impact on clinicians themselves. There are concerns about potential de-skilling if doctors become too reliant on AI, or the risk of automation biases just uncritically accepting the AI's output without applying their own judgment. We need to figure out the optimal way for humans and AI to collaborate, ensuring clinical judgment remains central.
Maintaining the human expertise.
Yes. And think about the patient side, again, informed consent. Do patients understand how AI is being used with their data and influencing their care? How do we ensure they can give meaningful consent? Transparency and clear communication are crucial for building and maintaining patient trust as these tools become more common.
Patients need to be in the loop.
Absolutely. And finally, we can't ignore cost, access, and implementation. Developing and deploying sophisticated AI takes resources. We need to make sure the benefits don't just accrue to well-funded institutions, potentially widening gaps in care. How do we ensure equitable access across the healthcare system? What are the real costs versus benefits? And how do we implement these changes effectively and fairly?
So a whole raft of challenges to navigate alongside the potential.
Definitely. It requires careful thought, collaboration, and a very human-centered approach.
Okay, so bringing this all together then, as we stand here in roughly April 2025, what's the concluding thought? Where are we with AI in healthcare?
I think the main takeaway is that AI holds truly significant promise to revolutionize many aspects of healthcare diagnosis, drug discovery, personalized medicine, system efficiency. It's moving beyond just theoretical hype into tangible applications with real-world impact starting to show.
It's actually happening now?
Yes, it's happening. The potential for improving patient outcomes, making care more proactive, and enhancing efficiency, especially in systems like Canada's, is immense. But we have to proceed cautiously and thoughtfully.
Right, navigating those challenges we just discussed.
Exactly. The ethical and practical challenges, datonicity, privacy, bias and equity, regulation, transparency, accountability, workflow integration, impact on clinicians, patient trust, cost, access. These are not trivial. They need careful management.
So it's about responsible innovation.
That's the perfect phrase. We need a collaborative effort involving researchers, clinicians, patients, policymakers, industry, everyone, to ensure AI is developed and deployed in a way that is safe, effective, ethical, equitable, and truly beneficial. It needs to be a trusted partner in achieving a healthier future, not something that creates new problems. A human-centered approach is absolutely key.
A powerful summary. Thank you so much for walking us through all of that. It's been incredibly insightful, really unpacking both the excitement and the complexities of AI in healthcare.
My pleasure. It's a fascinating and incredibly important area to understand.
Absolutely. So the key takeaway for you, our listener, is clear. AI offers tremendous opportunities to improve healthcare, but its successful and ethical implementation requires careful navigation of some very significant challenges. It's not automatic progress. It requires deliberate effort.
Well said.
Now, for a final thought to leave you with, as you reflect on everything we've discussed today, what specific aspect of AI in healthcare do you find most promising? Or perhaps most concerning? Why? Something to mull over.
Good question to ponder.
Thank you again for joining us for this deep dive. If you found this conversation valuable, if it sparked your interest, and you want to stay informed on future deep dives into critical topics like this, please do consider subscribing to our channel. It really helps us grow and continue bringing you these discussions.
Yeah, we appreciate the support.
Thanks again for your time. We'll see you next time.